My 26F boyfriend's 25M friend expressed his feelings for him. Should I tell him this makes me uncomfortable? My 26F boyfriend, 25M, has a friend, let's call him Dave, who has expressed his feelings for him. This is going to be a really long post, so sorry in advance. To give some background, Dave is a work colleague and they've been friends for a while. Dave is openly gay and we've met several times, and I never had any problems with him. We seem to get along quite well. This all started a few months ago. Dave and my boyfriend live on the same road, and after a night out with his work colleagues, they were dropped off together at Dave's house, where my boyfriend planned to walk home. That night, I had been messaging my boyfriend before bed, and at around 3 a.m. he had messaged me. He was on his way home. I was asleep by then. The next morning, I woke up to see the 3 message and saw that just after 5 a.m. he messaged to say that he was home. I found this a little odd since the place he was going home from was about 30 minutes away, though I thought maybe he just forgot to reply. When he woke up, I asked him about his night and how late he got home. He told me that the whole work crew were being dropped off in the same Uber, so it took him about an hour to get back. But this confused me even more because that wouldn't explain the 5M message. I asked if he ended up doing afters at Dave's house, but he said no and just left it at that. He didn't even say he forgot to message or anything to explain the missing hour. I found it a bit strange, but left it alone, even though his responses were a little out of character, and I could tell he wasn't telling me something. The next date night we had, he finally let it slip that he wasn't telling me everything about that night. He told me that while he was walking home, Dave, who had already gone home since the Uber dropped them at his house, suddenly started running after him. He told me that Dave told him that he's had strong feelings for him for who knows how long, and that he was interested in starting something with him. My boyfriend said he was really in shock, and that he reminded him that he was straight and has a girlfriend who he's met. Dave asked if any part of him would be interested in trying anything, and my boyfriend said no. I wasn't extremely annoyed by this story, other than being a bit bothered that he tried to proposition him that night, but I asked him why he wouldn't just tell me that this happened rather than keeping it a secret for a few days. He said he thought I might get upset, and when I asked him why I would be, he ended up adding more to the story. Apparently, while Dave was making this declaration of love, he was also taking the opportunity to badmouth me. Dave doesn't know me extremely well, but, like I said before, our interactions at that point had been pleasant. He was telling my boyfriend that I do not deserve him, and he could do much better than me, amongst other things. This, of course, did upset me, and I felt extremely disrespected. Not only did he try and convince my boyfriend to cheat on me, but the stuff he was saying was also extremely insulting. Dave and my boyfriend ended up having an hour conversation in the rain. He jokingly referred to it as the most romantic thing anyone's ever done for him. But I don't really know how much my boyfriend defended me or made it clear that this type of dialogue isn't okay with him. He definitely shut it down, though. Since then, I felt very uncomfortable with my boyfriend and Dave's friendship. I don't want to be the type of girlfriend that has a problem with any of her boyfriend's friends, but I really felt like Dave had crossed a line. Still, they are constantly together because they work with each other, and my boyfriend spends a lot of time with his work colleagues on days off, etc. The problem is that, as time goes on, it's getting to me more and more. Yesterday, I posted about my boyfriend having made plans with his friends, the work colleagues, on our anniversary. You can see that post here for context. Basically, they are planning to play Deed, and Dave went over to my boyfriend's place yesterday at 6:30 at 6:30 time to create his character, since my boyfriend's never played before. My boyfriend had made it seem like there was a group who were going to help make his character, but it turned out to just be Dave. I only realized this because we're on FaceTime and Dave rang the bell while we were on call. Because he had abruptly hung up the phone on me, he told me he would call me back later when Dave left and made it seem like he wouldn't be long. Well, it gets to midnight and my boyfriend still didn't call. I messaged to ask whether he was free yet, and he said that Dave's still there and they're having some drinks. Because I had work, I ended up just going to bed, and we said we'd call tomorrow today. Today we called, and my boyfriend told me that he's extremely hungover and that Dave stayed until about 4 last night. I asked him what had happened since it wasn't meant to be a big night, and he said they were initially drinking beers, but then moved to margaritas and lost track of time.
I asked what they were doing all that time, literally 9.5 hours, and he said that it took them about 3 hours to make his decad character, and then after that Dave asked him to teach him how to DJ. My boyfriend makes music, DJ. My boyfriend makes music.
I didn't say anything further than just asking him what happened last night, and he'll be seeing Dave again tonight for the deed tech thing. This entire situation has seriously bothered me. Call me insecure, but I am not comfortable with my boyfriend spending one-on-one alone time all night with anyone who has expressed deep feelings for him, let alone someone who completely disrespected me in order to try and convince my boyfriend to get with him. I know that my boyfriend is not gay, but to me, I feel just the same as I would feel had it been a girl who was interested in him. Even if nothing's going to happen, it feels like he's entertaining someone's interest, particularly someone who clearly doesn't respect our relationship. Should I speak to my boyfriend about this? What would I even say? TLDR, I feel uncomfortable that my boyfriend's friend told him that he has feelings for him and badmouthed me to try and get with him, but my boyfriend still spends a lot of time with him, including one-on-one time last night till 4 a.m. Update, so my boyfriend called me immediately after he got home from the Dirt game, and I just got straight into it with him. By the time he got home, I was already stewing after reading everyone's perspectives on the situation, and I think I shocked him with how forceful I was from the get-go. We've not really had arguments like that before. I started by saying I am uncomfortable with the fact that Dave stayed over till 4 one-on-one with him, and they got wasted. He seemed surprised and completely oblivious that it would bother me to this level, and he asked me to explain why I was feeling this way. I told him it's totally unacceptable that he and Dave spent basically the whole night together, when Dave has actively tried to sleep with him and disrespected me and our relationship in the process. I told him that he needs to have boundaries with Dave, given all that has happened. His response to this was that Dave said these things a couple months ago, and that he doesn't think Dave still fancies him like that, or ever really did. He basically said that Dave was super drunk when he made his admission, but it wasn't that serious, especially since he's not gay or curious, and doesn't reciprocate Dave's feelings at all. I told him whether he took it seriously or not, the whole situation was serious to me, and that I feel extremely disrespected by both of them. I told him if this was a girl who admitted her feelings for him and they stayed up together, one-on-one, until 4 a.m., I would immediately think something sketchy is going on, because you don't entertain someone like that when you're in a relationship. Just because Dave is a boy, that doesn't make it okay, and he should still have the same boundaries he would for a girl who says she's into him, propositions him, and talks shit about me. He didn't really agree with this argument, because he said it's different. In that scenario, there's a chance of attraction to sexual activity, but with Dave, there isn't. I told him that in any situation, with anyone, there's that chance, regardless if he considers himself straight. How am I meant to trust that things wouldn't happen when Dave has already expressed his desire to have sex with him, and they were very drunk and alone together? In what world would I be comfortable with the fact that he's chosen to spend one-on-one time with Dave until the early hours of the night, knowing Dave has contempt for me and our relationship? At the bare minimum, he's showing Dave that it's okay to disrespect me, and that Dave still has his attention after all of this, potentially leading Dave on since he has a sexual attraction towards my boyfriend. He told me he understands my POV, but it wasn't like that, and he didn't plan to have Dave stay that late anyway. I asked him to take me through the entire night and explain to me why they would need to hang out for almost 10 hours. He said that when Dave came over, they worked on his dootad character. Dave explained how to play for about 3 hours, and they were having a couple of beers until Dave asked for something else to drink. Then they FaceTimed another coworker who was hosting the Diet event and stayed on call for like 2 hours or more. Apparently, it went from data conversation to gossip about work, etc. He said after that he was showing Dave the music he's made, how to produce and DJ, and they just lost track of time. I asked him how he could lose track of so much time when I was messaging him at 12 a.m. to say goodnight. He knew what time it was at that point, so why wasn't Dave on his way out by then? I told him the whole thing was sketchy, which he took slight offense to, asking me what I'm trying to insinuate and saying it seems like I don't trust him. He said in terms of the lateness, he honestly doesn't know how that happened and that he was shocked when he checked the time and asked Dave to leave as soon as he realized. He said he didn't ever think the situation was suspicious and that from his perspective, Dave doesn't have feelings for him. So the whole night was innocent. They were back to being the same friends as they were before Dave's admission. I told him it can never go back, even if he thinks Dave doesn't have ulterior motives. Dave put this out there and that can't be taken back. His behavior needs to change and boundaries need to be put in place. I told him that, without putting boundaries, he's essentially keeping things open from Dave's perspective. He told me that initially when this entire situation happened, he distanced himself from Dave, except for when at work events group outings, which is a lot of the time, so I'm not sure how distant that is. Nevertheless, he said they haven't met up one-on-one together for like 2 months. I'm pretty sure they have, but I will concede that he hasn't told me they've been alone at each other's houses since the admission, more so just the pub if anything. But I could be wrong, he may just have not mentioned another person joining them. I couldn't remember the specific occasions where I thought they did, though, so I couldn't really challenge him on that one. Anyway, he said their friendship was different because he felt awkward, which he didn't make clear to me at all. He always seemed like it didn't faze him at all, and it appeared to me that nothing had changed between them. He told me that they ended up having a chat a few weeks ago, where Dave apologized for what he did and told him that he didn't mean anything he said. He also said that because it happened a few months ago, he's just moved on from it now and decided to forgive and forget. I told him while he can forgive, he can't forget, because this has happened now and their friendship has to be different going forward, for the sake of his partner and relationship. I also asked him why he never told me about this talk, and he said he didn't think any of this was a big issue for me, so it didn't occur to him that this would be something I'd want to know. This then led to us arguing about the fact that he doesn't share information with me, tells white lies, omits things, including when the Dave thing initially happened. I said that I always tell him immediately if anyone makes a pass at me, and even used an example of a friend, let's call him Bill, who had touched me in a sexual way on a night out and said to my best friend that he has feelings for me. When that happened, I literally called my boyfriend the same night while he was on holiday, as I knew I would be seeing Bill for 2 upcoming group events, including New Year's Eve, both of which I invited my boyfriend to. He tried to deflect by saying that he didn't know Bill had verbally said he had feelings for me, and that I only said that I think Bill has a crush on me, insinuating it's the same situation as him and Dave, which I thought was ridiculous and told him he's just trying to find a loophole for his own behavior. I asked him if he would be okay with me and Bill spending all night together getting drunk. He said obviously not, but again, he thinks it's different, especially since the Bill thing happened more recently. I told him, by his logic, that means it'll be okay for me to do that as long as I wait a couple weeks, months. We continued going back and forth a bit. He apologized for making me feel upset and uncomfortable and said that it was never his intention. He just truly thought the whole thing with Dave was behind them. He also apologized if he came off defensive. He said maybe he's been naive, but he really did not believe that Dave still had any feelings for him or ulterior motives in spending time with him. He also said that it's become more difficult for him now, that Dave is his supervisor because he essentially controls all his shifts, holidays, etc., and that if he alienates him, it might impact all of that. He asked me if I want him to cut off Dave for good because he's not sure how he can do that given his work situation and the fact that they often do group gatherings events. He said it's kind of sad because Dave had been a good friend to him and they get along. I told him that if Dave was a good friend, he wouldn't have put him in this position, and that all of this is a consequence of what Dave did. This isn't something I wanted to happen. I've always wanted to have a good relationship with his friends, but it's not my fault at the end of the day. And he said it's not his fault either. I told him that while I am not okay with them spending alone time, I do understand that there's not much he can do to avoid him at work. He told me that he has no problem with doing that or putting more boundaries, as he doesn't ever want to disrespect me. He just wasn't aware that this was something that bothered me this much. He also said that since he's looking for a new job, he doubts Dave will be in his life to this degree much longer. We did touch on other things during this conversation, but we weren't able to get into everything as it was about 2 am at this point, and I had work in the morning. We are going to speak more again tonight, and hopefully resolve other things, mostly about how I feel I'm being treated, after some comments on the OG thread brought this to my attention. Again, I want to thank everyone for their input. I don't think I would have been brave enough to discuss this if most of you didn't validate my feelings. TLDR, update to the previous post. My boyfriend and I had a talk about his friendship with Dave, which resulted in him agreeing to put more boundaries in place. His explanation for his behavior was that he didn't believe that Dave still had feelings or attraction towards him, and just thought their friendship had gone back to normal.